I conduct research that looks at the way that people respond to climate change, so the psychology of communicating climate change, and also research that looks at public attitudes towards new areas of science and technology, in particular energy-related technologies, so things like nanotechnologies and geoengineering. I think right from the outset there's a really fundamental question about whether it can ever be morally, ethically acceptable to manipulate the Earth's climate at a global scale. So on the one hand, we've clearly got the ability to manipulate the climate. We've been doing it unintentionally, and that's what climate change is. We've also demonstrated that we can intentionally manipulate weather, at least on a local scale. So some of the geoengineering technologies that are currently being debated and looked at have their roots in military applications. So the Russian and American military have both made some small attempts, not massively successfully, to pursue weather modification. So on the one hand, we've manipulated the climate on a local level intentionally, and we've done it unintentionally on a big scale, but we haven't done those two things together before. So I think there's a fundamental question right off the bat about whether it's okay to combine those two things. It's important to distinguish between the different classes of technology that are being discussed, and also to distinguish between the individual technologies. They're proposing very different things. But I also think that there's perhaps an earlier question to ask, which is about the way that, as a whole, geoengineering is being framed at the moment. People are talking about it, advocating for it, promoting research into it as a plan B, something to do if the current things that are on the table don't work. Some people are saying, some senior scientists are already saying that the mitigation activities that we're pursuing at the moment are not going to be enough. So in a sense it's being argued for as there is no alternative. Now this is a particular type of argument, a TINA, there is no alternative argument, that Margaret Thatcher made famous. She was referring to different types of economic policy. But if you look at research that's been done into public attitudes towards nuclear power, what you find is that often people are not all that much supportive of nuclear power when they're just asked a straight question of whether they like it or not. But when it's framed as being a choice between nuclear power and dangerous climate change, suddenly acceptance of it goes up because people see that potentially there is no alternative. I think it's important to think about the way that geoengineering is being framed already at the moment. How will people respond to the implication that there is no alternative? And is it true that there is no alternative, or is the future constantly being shaped by the choices that we make at the moment? There's something about the idea of geoengineering, this thought that perhaps there could be a magic machine that we could depend on that will do a lot of the hard work for us on climate change. There's concerns that this could be dangerous. It could be dangerous from the point of view of members of the public's attitudes towards or support for policies to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, but it could potentially be more dangerous for politicians. Clearly they're going to be looking for the easiest, cheapest way of dealing with climate change, or being seen to deal with climate change. Now if they know that lurking in the background is an option, or even the thought of an option that might be able to do some of that hard work for them so they don't have to make tough choices, then there's a concern that they might be less interested in taking ambitious mitigation policies at the moment. This isn't an either-or problem. So even the strongest advocates of geoengineering will tell you that geoengineering on its own isn't going to prevent dangerous climate change. It's going to be a combination of mitigation, of adaptation, and possibly, following sufficient dialogue with a broad enough range of people, some element of geoengineering.